Welcome. Thank you for coming, everyone. It was our first ever Child's Play panel at a MAGFest. We've done a lot of PACs, but we're excited to be here and celebrate you guys supporting us for 10 years. So, yeah, thank you. So my name is Eric Blandon. I am the program director at Child's Play. Mostly that means that I sort of oversee the program aspects. We're a small team. There's only 4 of us, so we all do a little bit of everything. Program aspects being our partner hospitals, and then and the money that we give them and the interactions we give them, as well as I sort of focus on the game tech stuff, which are staff people that we hire, or we do grants so the hospitals can hire in the hospitals, and we'll get into that more later. But I sort of coordinate them and make sure that they have the resources they need to do their jobs.
I'm Kirsten Carlisle, and I am the newest member of the Child's Play team. I've been here almost a year. It'll be a year this month. So I came from children's hospitals for 17 years and specialize in fundraising. So my title is Director of Philanthropy and Partner Experiences, which means that I get the privilege of going out to corporate partners or meeting with supporters like you and talking about how you might want to do a fundraiser or things that you might want to donate or be part of our auctions. So I am typically working with all the way up to our desert buses, high-res, Steve here from MAGFest helping with the auction. So every day is different for me in coming up with fun and creative ways for you guys to rally everyone in the gaming community to support Child's Play.
So I'm going to show a little video real quick that gives a really good little explanation of what is Child's Play. Most of you probably are familiar with us, but maybe don't know all the details. So this is a good start.
And since 2003, we've been very, very busy. We supply toys and games of all kinds to hundreds of child welfare facilities across the world, taking a little of the outside world and bringing it inside, sharing our expertise to help make children's lives better. Child life specialists provide therapeutic play and education to reduce fear, anxiety, and pain for pediatric patients, making their lives a little easier and a little happier. Child's Play works directly with Child Life staff to create a wish list specific to their facility, ensuring donations are used to their fullest. We've raised more than $44 million so far, and our work reaches more than 1 million kids per year. Come be a part of our story and learn more at childsplaycharity.org.
Show that later. All right. Do the logo back. Cool. So that's a quick little elevator pitch of us. Basically, we give toys to kids in hospitals, but we do a lot more than that. We're not just a toy drive. One of the big things that we have been focusing on is, in the last probably 4 years, is helping hospitals use games therapeutically. So any game in a hospital is good for distraction. You could play Mario Kart or Overwatch or Fortnite or whatever. It'll help distract you from the pain and boredom and keep you from having to watch the cooking channel again. But there are certain games that are better at different, helping with different therapeutic goals. So if you have chronic pain, you want to play something that engages so much of gives you so much cognitive load that your brain doesn't have a lot of chance to sort of think about or process the pain. So you want something like Overwatch or Rocket League or Overcooked or any game that doesn't have a lot of pauses. It just keeps you going. And as most of you are probably gamers, you probably sort of intuitively realize that, but maybe haven't really thought about it in that way before. The clinical staff, on the other hand, for the most part, are not gamers. There's some, they're out there. but they, for the most part, are not. So they haven't thought about that. And that kind of distinction is not something that's listed on the ESRB ratings. It's not on the box or in the description of the game. You have to sort of be a gamer or know that kind of stuff to be able to know that difference between, say, that kind of game and a game that's good for anxiety, which is not Overcooked or Rocket League. You want Journey or Abzu or even Legend of Zelda or Minecraft in creative mode. Those are games that are great for anxiety. There's no pressures, there's no things sort of, pressuring you to do just certain timed quests or that kind of stuff. You can just sort of run around at your own pace and do your own thing however you want. And then there's other distinctions as well, things like the difference between, say, Zelda and Rocket League. One of those is great for a waiting room and the other is not. You don't want to put Zelda in a waiting room. That's not the right place for it. You want Rocket League or Bejeweled or Tetris or that kind of thing. Overcooked, even Overcooked would be great for a waiting room. A game where you can sort of play in 10 minutes and 15 minutes, pick it up, be done with it, and then you're done. Zelda is great for Mass Effect, and other RPG sort of games are great for a kiddo that's going to be there for a week or a month or a year. That's the kind of game you want there. So again, that's not the kind of thing that's in the on the book or on the instructions of the game in the description. It is like it'll say RPG, and you can be like, oh yeah, I know what RPG is good for long term. But if you're not a regular game player, then that's not something you would be able to parse. So we've built these little guidebooks that we give out to hospitals and parents and anyone that is interested, really. And I have a PDF of it that I'll show. So there's just sort of the pain page to give you an idea. But it just sort of breaks down in really simple language what makes a game good for pain. And then we have sort of broken down a few games in each category. So we have sort of 12 and under and 12 and older categories, and then each system, the more popular current systems, and only 3 games in each. But because we only have room for 3 games in each, we have the description so they can look through their game libraries and see what other games they might have that are also good. Like I said, for pain, you want something that's fast and keeps you busy. And there's lots of games that do that. It's not just these few games. There could be others that the patient really enjoys or you really enjoy that are really good at that. The same with all the other categories. So we have, actually I'll go back so you can see. Scroll back up. Well, anyway. So we have pain, boredom, short-term versus long-term, anxiety, sadness, and cognitive impairment. So those are sort of, we call them symptoms, but they're not really clinical symptoms. They're just groups of symptoms. But yeah. So that's the kind of thing that really got us started into. When we made this, we realized that we really needed to start visiting hospitals. For most of the first 11 or so years of Child's Play existence, which has been around for 16 years now, we didn't really visit hospitals a lot. We sort of stayed at a distance. We didn't want to get in their face, and none of us were clinicians at that time, and still aren't. And so we didn't want to sort of say, this is the way you should do things, because we're not clinicians. We don't know how you should do things necessarily for sure. So we stayed at a distance. We gave them gifts and let them figure out how to use them. And when we got this book designed, we started visiting hospitals and chatting with them. And we would visit a hospital that we have been a partner with for a long time, that we know that we have sent, this last year, maybe we sent 15 Xboxes to them, and we go visit, and we're sort of, like, what kind of systems do you have? Oh, we have, our Playroom here, and we have, 2 Xboxes and a PlayStation and a Nintendo GameCube, and this is like 2 years ago. And in our brain, we're like, we know we sent you like 10 Xboxes last year. Like, where did they go? And realistically, they went out to kids. They just gave them away because as we visited more hospitals, we realized that they can't support any more equipment than they have. And for the most part, there are some hospitals that could use more equipment, and they always could use refreshes of the equipment, especially as new generation of consoles come out. But they just can't manage more. Most of you probably have a console at home. You can manage it pretty good, keep up with the updates. But if you have, 10 or 15 or heaven forbid, like 30 consoles in a hospital, and you're maybe not a gamer, you're not used to downloading updates, and that's not even your job. Like, your job is interacting with patients. That's a lot of time commitment to do that. And so it often doesn't get done very well, or it waits for sort of maybe a volunteer comes along every few months and maybe it's like, oh yeah, I can do that. But they often will sit broken because they need their updates or whatever. And so they just sort of shrink down how much equipment they have to manage. Anyway, so in discussing that and chatting about them with this, and then we met a couple Child Life staff. Everyone familiar with what Child Life is as a hospital group? Anyone not familiar? Okay. So Child Life is, it's the folks at a children's hospital that specialize in the emotional health and well-being of the patient. So, doctors are there to specify or work on the physical health and well-being and in some cases mental health and well-being, but it's their role to work on the emotional health. So they practically what they do is they manage the playrooms, yes, but they also, if a 10-year-old is going to go have a I don't know. MRI or like I was going to say like a rhinoplasty surgery or something like that. That's like, I don't know what that is. They're the ones that can break it down with pictures and books and sort of explain what is going to happen and sort of get them used to it. So it's not just this scary thing that they don't know what's happening and then breeds anxiety if you don't know what it is. But if you can sort of understand it more and they can walk you through it, then your anxiety sort of lessens. So that's kind of the focus of what they do. They also work with supporting families in different ways, end-of-life stuff, how to help them, legacy building, so that if a patient isn't going to make it, they can help build memories that are strong and lasting, all that kind of stuff. So I should let you answer that because you actually...
Yeah. That's how Eric and I met. I oversaw Child Life team and fundraise at my children's hospital, but he got it.
But yeah, so we chatted with some of them and realized that what would really help these hospitals in a sort of foundation building way is if we helped them hire someone that could maintain all this equipment. So effectively a gamer in the hospital. And what sort of catalyzed this or sparked this idea is we did meet one in C.S. Mott's Children's Hospital, a guy named JJ, who was a child life specialist, and then through a grant through his local foundation, basically the local foundation wanted to give the hospital an Xbox 360 for every room. And then the hospital's like, that's great. And he, being a little bit of a gamer, was like, wait a minute, like, that's 250 Xboxes, like, how are we gonna maintain those? Like, who's gonna manage that? Like, that's a huge thing. And so they thankfully were able to talk to the foundation and said, okay, we do want to give this, but we'll also give whatever the amount was, a salary a year, basically, to hire a person to manage all this stuff. And so that became JJ. He got that job and became, as far as I know, the first sort of game tech specialist in a hospital, or patient game tech specialist, where his whole job was no longer the child life piece. He still interacted with patients, and the child life definitely allowed him to be better at this, interacting with patients in a way that was appropriate, I guess. But he also then just became the manager for all these Xbox 360s, which is no small feat. Especially because they're at that facility, they were all online at that time, so they were allowed to get, which it has goods and bads. And hospitals go back and forth with should they be online, should they not be online? Because if they're online, they get to play with their friends and can effectively help normalize their stay. It's less of a disruption to their life, which is great. It also means that they're subject to the online world, which cannot be great. Anyway, so I won't get into that stuff. But yeah, so we started the game tech specialist stuff and doing some grants to help folks hire them. We've done about 14 grants so far. With these game tech specialist roles, and they're growing. It's a new sort of career path, basically. Like this position doesn't exist anywhere else. There's probably, and as we've visited more hospitals, we have found a couple others that have done this kind of thing. Outside of us. So there's probably about 20 people in the world at this point that are a gamer doing gaming things in a hospital. But there's not very many of them, so that's not but it's growing. We're actually going to have a conference this year, later this year, that's going to be the first game tech specialist conference. We'll bring all of them together and sort of have a chat about how to grow this, what makes a good game tech specialist, what kinds of things, because they're doing everything from just supporting the equipment, which is important, but also the other piece that makes it super important is there's things like virtual reality and telerobotics and 3D printing and stuff like that is super cool and could be super useful in a hospital for lots of different reasons, but is not the kind of thing that a child life staff, your average child life staff or nurse or doctor or anyone is going to have the time or know-how to be able to manage. Whereas this person can be their job, and they can do that, and then collaborate with others and figure out, okay, what do you do with 3D printing? Well, you make scans of a kid that maybe isn't going to make it with their dads, holding hands, and you give that to the family. What do you do with VR? You give a kid that has a lot of chronic pain and again, needs that cognitive load to make the pain go away. You give them Beat Saber for a half hour, and that is gone. Like they're in another world.
And they can do it from a bed, right?
They can do it from a bed, yeah.
You don't have to be up and about or moving around the hospital, and so game techs know that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't need to actually move when you're playing Beat Saber. You just need to move your hands, and you can do it one-handed even. But you can turn the walls off, you can turn the bombs off, you can make it no fail. There's lots of ways to do that, but it also. There's a lot of cases for different patients for different medical reasons, but there's a lot of cases where really the staff's goal is just to get the patient up out of bed. Like they just need to sort of get walking, get moving after a surgery, get their sort of blood flowing. And if there's no incentive to do that, if they can just sit there and maybe they play their little DS or Nintendo Switch or whatever, or watch the cooking channel, they're feeling sorry for themselves or whatever, they're stuck away from their friends, there's not a lot of incentive. But if in the playroom they can play VR or whatever, that can just be an incentive to get up and go play that. So that's the other good reason why that. But most VR nowadays, it's getting better. The Quest is really good at it, much easier to approach. But if we were just to give VR to all of our hospitals as a gift, which we would love to do, most of them would sit under a desk unused because they don't know what to do with it. And we've actually we've literally gone to hospitals and seen that happen, where it wasn't gifts from us, it was gifts from other donors that sort of give them stuff. Well-meaning donors, but there's just that's a level of technical expertise and barrier to entry that they can't manage. They can barely manage to keep consoles up, let alone a Vive or a Rift that needs a PC and running, and then you got to talk to IT and there's a whole thing. So anyway, I think that's about it for the game tech stuff for the most part. I'm going to show you another video. So this is a video from Colorado Children's, who's one of the leaders in the field of games and technology, using it successfully in the hospital. They have, they talk about why a little bit in the video, but you'll see one of the game tech specialists that was hired through a grant of ours, and then you'll see some other folks and a lot of sort of situations and images of how they're using games. So, yeah.
What do you think it's like here, being a kid in the hospital? How do we feel? Are we all the same? No. We are each our own, different. Some of us are here for an hour, some of us months. We all experience different things, but we all share one thing. We all just want to be kids. And that's where you come in. Because of you, we have a new way to play, a new way to make things better. And you helped us get just the right people to make it all happen, including one of the first gaming technology specialists in the country.
Every day I get to come into work and use technology to help kids feel better. This includes gaming on consoles, it also includes 3D printing, and even includes immersive technology such as augmented and virtual reality. Not only do we use this technology for fun, but we also get to use it to help kids get through treatments and for procedure supports so they can heal faster and get home quicker.
It feels like you're a kid again when you're playing video games.
Not only that, because of Child's Play, we also have the world's first child life medical director.
Not only do I get to help develop and manage these programs, I get to promote the mission of Child Life throughout Children's Hospital Colorado and the community.
And you help us figure out how to do all this even better.
We're conducting research on how we can use these new and emerging technologies to establish best practices to benefit our patients and families, to improve the experiences, and how we can leverage this technology in really fun and innovative ways.
So, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for helping us be kids. Thank you for helping us play. Thank you for helping us heal.
So yeah, that was it's Colorado Children's, who created this great video for us. So thank you for us for the year. But so in there, Dr. Joe, albeit the medical doctor, Child Life medical director, he's great. So he is a hardcore gamer. He's part of the 501st. He's into Star Wars and he loves Destiny, and he's gamer as they come. Doesn't have as much time to game as he would like, but that's like many of us who have jobs now. We can't always game as much as we like, but he's also, he's a pediatrician internist, so he's a doctor, and is well thought of in his field. So being the Child Life medical director gives him the ability to go to conferences, do talks, and talk to other doctors at the level of, their bring up, old common misconceptions about why games are bad, or why they can't be beneficial in the hospital. You can say, actually, no, it's good for this reason and this reason. You saw in there was a video of a patient that was sort of leaning over in VR, and they were doing something with their back. So that's a lumbar puncture. It's pretty painful, and generally you have to get anesthesia before you get it, which means you have to fast for a while, and then you're sort of not feeling well for a while after that, and it makes makes the procedure and your medical stay longer and more expensive. Or you could put them in VR. They can come in, have the session, can eat right before it, put them in VR, have the lumbar puncture, and then walk away and leave. Makes it very fast, much cheaper in staff time.
And safer for the patient.
And safer, yeah. Exactly, yeah. So, and there's lots of different procedures where that can be the case, where they can, rather than doing anesthesia, you can use VR or an iPad or some other distraction. VR is not always the best for procedure distraction. If you're in VR, it can be very disconcerting if someone touches you or something. So some cases iPads are better, and we're still sort of figuring out what kinds of patients prefer which and what procedures prefer which. That's the stuff that's coming out, but it's definitely a good tool and can be a good tool. I think that's it for now. We're definitely gonna have questions at the end, so if you guys have any questions, keep them in the end, and we'll dive into different topics. And before I forget, we do have a booth downstairs in the marketplace, so if you do want to chat deeper about any of these bits, we have actually a bunch of different swag and lots of copies of these booklets and different stuff. So if you want to come visit us there afterwards or at some point later this weekend, for sure.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about fundraising now and how you can get involved if you're interested. But really what I loved about leading out of the Colorado Children's video and coming from a children's hospital and fundraising is that the donations that you have helped us raise is what makes that possible, right? When you think about Colorado Children's, we're funding a physician, we're funding a game tech specialist, but at the same time, we're funding all this incredible equipment that is changing the patient experience. So people often think, well, I don't have enough money to give, or I don't know how to get involved. What can I do? And the number one thing I always say first and foremost is get engaged with us, follow us on all social channels, reshare our messaging, because you also have people that are engaged with you, whether it's your friends and family, or you're an influencer and you do a stream, or you're a YouTuber, all the business that you work for. That's how we get connected, really grassroots level. I mean, we were started by Penny Arcade, which most of you know, in 2003. They're from Spokane, Washington, so am I. I actually met Eric at our hospital visit, and that's how I ended up coming to work for Child's Play. And so always sharing the message, or sharing your why. Why do you support Child's Play? Do you have a personal story? Were you in a hospital as a child and none of this was available for you, and the difference you can see it makes for the patients and families that we all serve? I would also say there's simple ways to get involved, donating an auction item. So many people in the marketplace are artists and have a business and they want to donate to us, or they donate through MAGFest and support us. So you can do an eBay auction, you can sell an old console on eBay, because we actually get the question all the time is, I have this old console, can you give it to a hospital? And because of infection control, they don't allow used consoles to come in. But if you sell it and then you either buy something on our wish list or donate the money to us, we can do a new console. And we typically, or can work with Microsoft to get a bunch donated, and then use your funds to buy games to support that console, however that hospital might do it.
And actually on eBay, just there's a thing where you can do that's eBay for charities. So you can choose a charity of your choice when you set up an auction, and then do a slider of 10% to 100%, however much you want to go to that charity, and it'll announce or it'll be displayed on the auction page. So everyone that comes to the auction will know that, oh, this person isn't just saying they're going to give to the charity. eBay is actually just going to take the money and give it to the charity automatically. So it's not like they're going to jip out. And whatever percentage you choose, you pay that less fees. So if you do 100% sales or 100% to Child's Play, you pay no fees. It's no cost to you. I mean, you just ship the thing, but you can charge the person for that. So
yeah, it's been a great tool for us that we've used. Also, we have our wish lists online. So if there's a certain hospital that where you live, we support over 170 hospitals around the globe. So if there's one that you have an affinity to, or that you feel like that's the hospital you want to give to, they have a wish list online that their child life specialists have made, and you can actually buy a toy or a game for them. And this year, Eric had a great idea right before our dinner auction that we're calling it game stat. So a lot of hospitals will call us and say, oh, this patient really wants this game, we don't have it. And so we did a fundraiser at our gala, and people donated. So now Eric can go on Amazon, order the item, the game, and get it right to the hospital within a day or two, and the kid will have that while they're there during their stay, which is kind of a cool idea that they can have a game they need. It'll be really fun to watch. I know here at MAGFest, I noticed there's a lot of cosplay, and so we have a mobile giving option set up where it's cosplay for Child's Play, and people can text to give. And we might be switching carriers later, but it's something cool that we have that some cosplayers will wear. We have little badges they can wear, and then if someone likes their cosplay, or they have their friends, they can do fundraisers if they're doing pub crawls or other cool things. I think if you work somewhere, check if they have matching gifts. That's what I would say as well for your employer. So many of our gifts come in through the form of matching gifts, through Microsoft, through Apple, through Nintendo, Amazon. So lots of them have programs. Also Macy's and JCPenney and all sorts of companies that aren't even tech companies also have matching gift programs. So we receive between $25,000 and $50,000 a month in matching from employees all over the world. So we love that. It's a great option for us to engage with a lot of employees and a lot of businesses. I would say create an event. I know you think about MAGFest, if you've been a super fan or you've come a lot, like thinking 10 years ago, they started the component of charity for Child's Play and have raised significant dollars for us. We were going back in time because they've kind of switched some staff members trying to figure out exactly where they're at, and close to $300,000 has been raised for Child's Play through MAGFest, through your support, through the auction raffle. Flipping tables, I've heard, was a thing, so I haven't experienced that yet. I know there's a form of that coming back. So some cool things that you can also support us in that way. Or the desert buses. I know a lot of people here I've seen repping desert bus shirts, participating in their raffles. But volunteering is a great way to support us. We are at every PAX, at Penny Arcade Expos, obviously. We're the charity of choice. We need help running our booth. We need help selling the merch. We need help getting the word out. There's pub crawls that people organize. So you can also be a volunteer or donate. I mean, it's time, talent, and treasure, right? And we need all three to make Child's Play work. And I think last would be supporting the industry when businesses are doing things. So being new, again, in my first year, thinking about High Res when they do their skins. Last year, their skins raised, $420,000 for us at $25 a pop. Or Ubisoft, when they did, I'm going to get the name wrong because I'm not a gamer. I'm getting into it, but I haven't been. Was it Ghost Recon Breakpoint? I always say Point Break because I think of the movie. But they did a really cool option where you could be part of the beta and sign up and be part of the beta, and every time you revived someone on your team, they made a donation, and it ended up being $161,000 from Ubisoft just for playing the game. So look for those opportunities to support us, to spread the word, and really have fun. We believe in that part of it. When you're fundraising, it should be fun, and then when you're raising money for us, it should be fun, because it creates a community. Like, the gaming community is like no other I've experienced as a fundraiser, and I'm enjoying learning about. But if you have a fun idea or a new way to do something, your streams are your own. If you do streams, we always tell you, don't change your content, don't change how you do things. People follow you because of you and what you do. MAGFest was kind of warning us of some of the fun, silly things they do, or the language that comes out, and we're okay with it, because what was your line you always say?
It's not, just because it's for kids doesn't mean it has to be, the content has to be for kids.
Right.
Like, there's drunk streams that stream for us. There's, people that swear, obviously. I mean, just at our, if anyone's familiar with Penny Arcade, Mike and Jerry at Penny Arcade, Gabe and Tycho, their site is not kid-friendly. They are the MCs at our dinner auction. Mm-hmm. They were dropping swears at our dinner auction, so it's fine. There was no kids there. There was one or two kids there, but it's fine.
They were Mike's kids,
they were
okay.
warned. Yeah.
So, really, those are ways to get involved with us. I'm sure most of you, how many of you, Child's Play is new to you coming today?
Oh,
okay,
cool.
right on. That's
Thank you.
awesome. Yeah, so I feel like the impact that we're able to make raising over $4 million a year is because of the gaming community completely, and I have never seen a more giving and generous group that I've had the privilege to come in and work for and work with a team. So with that, I guess we probably should see if you guys have any questions, more things you want to know about Child's Play or what we do. Sure.
With these game technician specialist positions, I understand it's a very small sample size right now, but what kind of credentials or qualifications do hospitals tend to look for?
Yeah, it's a good question. Oh, yeah, sorry. So the question was for game tech specialists, what are the credentials or qualifications, resume, if you will, that these people should have? We're still sort of figuring it out. The thing, obviously, proven experience with children, working with kids is important, but that could be, working in a children's hospital would be great. So anyone that's a child life person potentially is a natural fit for that. But if you worked in a school, teacher of some sort, some of the ones that we have worked with a lot of camps, or in a school library.
And that could be in a volunteer capacity too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it doesn't have to be your career.
Have an IT major,
It has to be sort of more than one summer, probably. Mm-hmm. But like anything, there's a give and take there. But sort of that's an important piece. A passion for games. It doesn't have to be, I worked in the games industry. I don't think. One of our folks has worked sort of in the games industry tangentially a little bit. The rest of them all just have a passion for games in some way. So that's an important piece. But it doesn't have to be like these aren't server admin people. These aren't like heavy IT people. These are people that love games, that can figure out how to download Xbox updates, and some of them are super crafty and can figure out how to take apart a PlayStation controller and like fix it and open up a PS3 and clean it out, and it's one of the pieces that they struggle with is games in a home get used, some number of hours a day. I don't know, 4 hours a day on average, something, whatever. I don't know. Games in a hospital, consoles in a hospital get used a lot more. So they get used hard, and there's just a lot of kids using them. So they just need more maintenance than others. What else? Then the other piece that's harder to test for is the emotional requirements of working in a children's hospital can be very difficult. So not every kid is going to make it. There's a lot of joy, but there's also a lot of sadness there. Not a lot, there's sadness there, definitely. And you need to be able to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. And not everyone can. I mean, that's, different people have different emotional levels, I guess, empathy levels or whatever. And there's different ways of coping with it. And definitely So if you've proven, you can work in hospitals, and that's great. Otherwise, you just sort of need to sort of sample it. And part of our struggle, or not struggle, part of what we're learning is that we need to chat with the child life managers that are hiring these people, because they're used to hiring child life professionals. That's mostly who they hire. Actually, Penny at Seattle Children's has been a manager for, I don't know, she's in her 40s or something.
Yeah, 25 years maybe?
She's been a manager for years and years and years. The game tech specialist is the first male she has ever hired, because child life specialists in general are ladies, 20 to 30-something ladies. But anyway, part of the child life training is you have to be an intern for a year.
Yeah, you have to do a practicum and an internship, and it's 680 hours that you have to put in as a volunteer side by side.
So if you made it through that, you have proven you can handle a hospital. But these game tech specialists, they haven't done that piece. So it's a piece that the hiring manager just needs to keep in mind, that this person hasn't gone through that. I need to sort of think about this in the training. It's not a piece I can assume that they're capable of that, or that they're okay with that.
And infectious diseases and understanding what it means, and it's just lots of things to learn.
Yeah.
What cystic fibrosis is, and that it's not contagious versus, you have a room where someone has a staph infection and what you have to be careful of.
Yeah, so there's a whole level of hospital life that you need to, but some of that can be onboarded. You don't necessarily need to have that ahead of time. I guess the important bits are proven ability to work with kids. That's an important bit.
Gaming.
The gaming piece, having a passion for games, and then the emotional piece, being able to handle it there, which was difficult to show if you were a teacher. You may not have had that piece or be able to show that you have that piece, but there's.
I feel like our game techs too have really they stay really current with what's popular, like based on age, right? And doing a lot of research and knowing exactly what games are doing the cool robotics, or creating the arcades, and cool, also having this level of creativity that you can bring and immerse kids into gaming of all different kinds. It can be tabletop, it can be VR.
And I guess and that comes with the passion for games, right? Following the announcement at E3, following the announcements at all the stuff where there's this new thing, right? Be like, and then being creative enough to think about, okay, here's this new thing. Can I use it in the hospital with patients? Would it be, fun? Is it safe? Can I make it safe? Because take VR for example. A lot of the VR headsets have a lot of foam in them. Foam is very hard to keep infection control safe, right? You can't, basically. So you either rip out the foam. Thankfully, a lot of them they're on Velcro, so you can take them out or put little fake leather cases over them or whatever. But it's just being able to creative like that, be able to enough maker in you, I guess, that you can sort of mod things and be comfortable with that. I'm going to break this warranty, whatever, it's fine. We can buy another one if I totally muck it up.
And they're pretty popular in the hospital, so you have to be ready to go from room to room. Spend time with the kids and help them beat levels.
Yeah, you have to. I think the other probably important piece is you have to be able to work on your own team. You're not working alone. You're in a hospital. There's people everywhere, but no one else is doing your job. you're working alone in your own way, and you're going to need to advocate for yourself, fight for the things you need, understand the politics of whatever hospital you're figure that out. You're probably going to need to make friends in IT and make friends in the clinical engineering and make friends in the house cleaning department. All these sort of groups, and sort of figure that out. Right. So being sort of your own person and sort of a self-starter.
Some now have teams. They have more than one.
One has.
Oh, it's just CS-MOT?
Yeah.
I thought Colorado Children's
so
had a team.
Not yet. Well, they have a committee. They do have There's only one game tech, but they do have a VR AR committee that is
and help train volunteers and teach your world. That helps them immensely, is the volunteer group. So that's the other thing I would tell you about getting involved if you want to support our children's hospitals, is volunteering. They need people who understand and know gaming to take the time to go through volunteer services and be able to volunteer each week and help those game techs, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If you know someone or you're interested in this kind of potentially a job in this field, keep an eye. Any of the jobs that get posted that we know about, we'll post on our Twitter. But the hospitals, if there's a hospital that's near you, check it out every once in a while. Browse their job site. But and we'll definitely announce as we do our grants for this sort of position are quarter one. So March 15th, call it April 1 is when we sort of approve the grants for the next years of this. But then hospitals don't move quickly. By nature, hospitals are cautious organizations. Any change is potentially dangerous to their patients, so they're conservative and cautious. So generally in the summer-ish would be the earliest that a hospital would start hiring, and potentially it's even the fall or later.
I guess that's probably something we didn't talk about, is how we gift the money that you give. Yeah. So we have a grant process where quarter one is game techs, or really capacity building grants. So if you have an idea or a project that is going to fundamentally change the way you're doing something in your children's hospital through gaming and technology, and we would do that grant in the first quarter. And then the second quarter is anything from an equipment refresh to things new toys they might need, or tools they might need. We have one down at our booth that is this cool Spectrum, and it's like a little keyboard, and they have rings on it, and it recognizes the colors, so our Child Life can do really cool different things with the kids at the hospital. Like, you go around and find on the floor everything that's purple. They're getting their walk in, they're getting their exercise in, and they're tapping music and making a beat that they can play later for someone, or doing it to a game. That's quarter two. And we also currently partner with the Bungie Foundation on the iPads for Kids program. So 8 of our hospitals have an iPad in every room, and we use a system called JAMF that we can actually make sure that the iPad, each admission and discharge, is set up for the patient based on age, and it's in the room ready to go, and then when they leave, the iPad is basically cleared and ready for the next patient. So we have that in 8 of our hospitals right now with the Bungie Foundation. And then we do annual gifts to our hospital. So we do a Christmas in July, where we send them some cool different things we might have in the office, or something we want to buy for them that we think is new technology related that would work in every hospital, but actually give them the gift of an annual gift. It can range from $1,000 to some hospitals can get $20,000 or $25,000. Based on size. And they can use those monies to support gaming and toys in their children's hospital. So last year was our first year. A new children's hospital in Montana, in Kalispell, Montana, was built, and they put in a grant in the very beginning, and we were able to equip them out the gate with an Xbox in every room, with an Oculus and Kind VR for distraction, and MRI goggles as well. So when a patient goes into an MRI, they can actually watch a movie. But the cool part about the MRI goggles, they are hospital grade, and the nurse can actually talk to the patient, or the tech can talk to the patient through it. They can stop the game, and they can be featured in it if they need to be, so that the patient would see them, but then go back. And again, it's a level of reducing sedation and being able to meet patients in a faster manner, because when you have to sedate a patient, it takes longer for an MRI. Yeah. So some cool things that we were able to do with those hospitals, and kind of change the game for them coming out of the gates, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other questions?
Other questions?
Yeah.
We thought of composing like an extensive list of different games and how they can help with different mental issues.
Yeah, so the question is, we thought of composing producing a list of lots of different games and how they can help with different mental issues.
We've really only worked with EDAR right now on the symptoms.
Yeah, so the guidebook we have right now, this one, it's sort of like, it doesn't really get into like, I mean, sadness is probably the closest that it gets, I guess, to a mental issue. The difficulty, I guess, would be, so we're very careful that anything we produce be truthful and accurate. And us not being any sort of mental health professionals means we'd have to go find someone else to do it, which we could. So for this book, we work with a company called EDAR that does game market research. Every game that comes out, they rate it according to lots of different criteria, hundreds of bits of criteria for companies, and then so the company can be like, I have a game, but I don't know like what demographic to market it to or whatever. They can sort of help them, and we sort of came at them with a little bit different thing. We're like, hey, you know, for this purpose, you know, and so they reached out to mental health professionals when they first developed our criteria and said, not just mental health, but healthcare professionals, said, you know, for pain, what would be the core components, you know, for anxiety, sadness, all the different bits. So they rate it for us. So we feel like it's has a high degree of truth, if you will. It's not research driven, this guide isn't, because games just come out too fast. By the time you did a good research study for each of them, they'd be a year old. So it's sort of a good balance there. But it is sort of data driven stuff. I don't know. I feel like it's the kind of so there's several organizations, charities, well, there's lots of them in the gaming world now. We were definitely one of the first. We've been around for 16 years, but there's a gazillion now, and a bunch of them we're very friendly with. We all have sort of slightly different missions, so we don't feel like we're competing at all. Take This and Checkpoint.org are both mental health gaming organizations, charities, and I feel like that would be a better thing for them, and I think. So Checkpoint has a video series I know that talks about games and healthcare and mental health, and gives some specific examples of different stuff. I don't know if either of them have like a list of different games for different symptoms, I guess, or different things. Part of the probably struggle as well would be just because you have depression doesn't mean that, I'm going to throw a game out here, but it's not a recommendation of this game for depression, but it doesn't mean like that Overcooked is great for depression, right? It could be great for one person, but not another.
Take This has a lot of information related to mental health, but I don't know that they relate it to specific games or different things. But Take This has done a lot of work, and
it's the kind of thing that I feel like we would be happy to do a grant to help someone else put together, but not the kind of thing that we would lead. And we would definitely, if it existed, would happily like spread the word and be like, hey, check out this cool resource. But I don't feel like that's our expertise to be able to say we are experts in mental health, just because there are these other great mental health organizations, and we don't want to, we're a little careful, we don't want to step on their toes, I guess. But yeah. A
lot of mental health counselors, though, have stopped by our booth at lots of different events and always take the game guide, the therapeutic game guide, or we have a little code, you can text it to yourself and they keep it and use it and find it as a resource. But at this point.
But I wish that kind of thing existed, and it may exist in some form, I don't know. I'll have to dig around a little bit more, but yeah, it's the kind of tool that we would love to spread the word about, but I don't know that we would ever make this guide here, because we do get from EDAR, you know, we only have like 3 games in each little category, each system, but they give us 20 in each thing in a spreadsheet every month, and that's part of our goal this year, is to get all that data that we have and get it up on a website in a searchable sort of form. So it could be like, I have pain and I have an Xbox 360, and rather than just 3 games, you get like a list of 50 games, and you'd be like, you know, I want this one, and I already had this one, and like whatever. So that's a tool that we want to hopefully develop this year, or get created, because we have all this data, we just don't want to, and it's, you know, it's not cheap to produce all this data for EDAR to get it all, but we need to make it more useful than this guide. The guide is great because a lot of child life people in hospitals have seen that games can be beneficial to their patients, but it's just sort of anecdotal thing, and there's no like evidence, if you will, and this can be like, now it's in pen and paper, and I can like use it as here's a physical thing that says that this is good. The power of a physical paper. Yeah. So it's been a great resource for us. This is actually the third version we've made in the last 4 years. So.
And it's on our website as a PDF if you want it for yourself on your phone or to have it available. So you can also text us and get it on there.
I'll throw the website up here real quick. This is not TVGG. It's the video game guide. It's just anyway, if you want it. But yeah, that was a good question. Any other questions?
Others?
Yeah.
I think you guys said something about cosplayers in the game.
Yeah.
Can you kind of expand a little bit more on that?
Sure. So we created kind of a tool.
The question was, how can cosplayers get involved and stuff?
Yeah. So we have Cosplay for Child's Play, and it's actually a mobile gift. So on our website, I think it's in our fundraising guide as well, but we have some little tags that can go on your badges that you can text the word cosplay to 41444 and make a donation to Child's Play of an amount that someone chooses. So we've had some different cosplayers that will come to some of our conventions and share that with others. And so it's all mobile giving at this point for cosplay, which is really great, and a simple tool for them. You can also even go onto our site and use Salsa, which is our donation site, and make a page for yourself that you could say that you're doing a fundraiser for cosplay, and then you can send people the link, and they can you can text the link out and they can make a donation in that way. And that one's a little more interactive than just the mobile site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to throw out tools for people to be creative and do whatever sort of fundraising they want to do, whether it be, a tournament at their local college or their local game store or cafe, some sort of event, or a cosplayer wandering around and doing, or like at PAX, there's a group called the Cookie Brigade that gives cookies away for free and accepts donations for Child's Play, and lots of different groups that we want to try to encourage your creativity. Yeah.
Do you do anything with board games or just primarily video games?
So the question is, do we do stuff with board games, analog stuff, as well as video games? We do. In the hospital world, board games are harder to sanitize than a video game, so we generally focus on video games for hospitals. We still, in our annual gifts that we send out, we generally send some board games as well, because people donate them to us, and so we have them, so we might as well give them out. And there's a couple games that are either they use big plastic pieces or things like that we can say, hey, if you need a little game, try this. And then with our other thing we do with games, I don't know if we talked about it, so we also support domestic violence shelters and other sort of child welfare facilities like that are not healthcare related. And that's a great place. We send board games as well because they don't have the same infection concerns that a hospital does. The other trick with games, the games that you and me and most people here probably like are games that probably a non-gamer has never heard of and can be a little scary to try to open up and then teach a kid. So that makes it trickier, not impossible, but if we recommend games, we generally either do ones that are very simple, like Suro or something like that, that's super good for kids, or Ticket to Ride, easy to understand, or ones that maybe borderline they might have heard of, like Catan, that are sort of hitting the mainstream and stuff like that. But yeah. So we definitely,
They do tabletop tournaments too, and people do all sorts of things for us that love board games.
Yeah, there's actually so there's one of the organizations that we have supported is called Game to Grow, and they use Dungeons and Dragons as group therapy to help kiddos that are either a lot of them are on the autism spectrum in some way, or they just are very isolated and need to work on their social skills in different ways. So they have very intentionally created encounters and scenarios, and they're therapists. They know how to do this. They're trained. But yeah, so that's a growing realm of sort of analog games as mental health, as therapy, is that sort of stuff.
And those kids are really thriving at Game to Grow, where maybe traditional therapy didn't work for them. And that's a lot of topics, too, that we feel like I see at PAX or Game to Grow, where others are talking about mental health professionals.
It's a new sort of area that is really booming. So
it's been awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything else? We have just a couple minutes, or we can let you go a few minutes early out into the...
Cool. Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you,
we'll be around after and downstairs as well.
Come to our booth and
anyone who
visit.
wants a book, I have extras here.